A simple mnemonic device can help us understand active participation better. If you watch detective shows, you may have heard potential robbers talk about casing the joint as they try to determine whether or not it is safe and productive to pull off a caper. They know how easy it is to find the traits or characteristics that distinguish an easy mark from a dangerous one. When it comes to active participation in the classroom, you can case it too. In fact, the mnemonic device Case It will help you identify the 5 critical attributes that let you know true active participation is happening in your classroom. All examples of active participation have the same 5 critical attributes. C. They are congruent with the objective being taught. A. All students are involved. S. All students are involved simultaneously. I. All students are involved in activities or questions that let them process new learning. T. The opportunities for active participation occur throughout the lesson. Each of these critical attributes are important and supported by research and classroom experience. The 5 critical attributes are components of the definition for active participation. Active participation is defined as the simultaneous involvement of all learners' minds in answering questions or doing activities that are congruent with or match the objective of the lesson throughout the lesson. Let's look at each of the critical attributes separately to make sure we understand what they contribute to student learning. C is for congruent. Skilled teachers use their content expertise to choose congruent activities and questions for active participation. What students mentally and physically do during a lesson determines what they learn. Educational consultant Carol Cummings tells us there is a direct relationship between the amount of time a student spends on task and the achievement of the task. If you are not teaching what students are practicing, what are you teaching? If students are not practicing what you are teaching, what are they learning? The activities and questions you prepare for students must be congruent with the objective you have created for the lesson. Cummings' advice is especially easy to understand when we think about procedural memory, knowing how to do things. Would you go to a doctor who had never practiced the procedures that might save your life? Would you hire a plumber who had never installed a shower? But her advice is equally important when we think about declarative memory, that we can speak or write. Can a student analyze literature or write essays if they never practice? Activities and questions a teacher chooses must be congruent with the objective if the student is to learn. Research also tells us why we must invite all students to participate. Participation trends in classrooms show that high achievers initiate more interactions with teachers and get significantly more direct questions. Low achievers are less frequently encouraged to participate in class discussions or interact with the teacher. And high achievers receive more response opportunities and are given more time to answer questions. It is easy to see why these statements are true. High achievers tend to give teachers correct answers, and teachers like to get the right answer. In addition, they hesitate to embarrass lower ability students who may not have the right answers to give. However, we must all remember that Benjamin Bloom said 20% of the variation in achievement among students could be accounted for by their participation in class. We must level the playing field for all students by inviting and expecting all students to participate. Classroom experience shows us that the idea of inviting all students to participate simultaneously is just plain practical. Think about the numbers. The average classroom has 20 to 30 students and 15 to 40-minute lessons. You do the division. That means if students participate one at a time, there is 1 minute or less per student per lesson for participation. We only have enough time to establish strong neural paths for every child if we learn how to get them to mentally process congruent questions and activities simultaneously. I is for involved. Involved in questions and activities that matter. Here again, teacher decisions matter. There are 3 types of active participation that teachers can use to involve students in the mental processing and rehearsal that builds strong memory and ultimately helps students retain what they learn. There is covert active participation, overt active participation, and combination active participation. Let's look closely at how each type of active participation works in the classroom. We'll start with covert active participation. Covert participation invites behaviors we can't see or hear. It invites behaviors that are not measurable, but it invites behaviors that have the 5 critical attributes of active participation. The verbal prompts a teacher uses to invite active participation tell students how to participate. Study the following verbal prompts. Which ones do not invite covert active participation? Did you say that write is not covert? You are correct. You can actually see the student writing and even see what the student is writing. Did you also say that read is not covert? If so, you may want to rethink your answer. The fact is that you can see students looking like they are reading, but you can't see what is happening in their brain. Read is covert because you cannot really see direct evidence of whether or not a student is reading or of what the student is learning from reading. Then what is overt active participation? Overt active participation invites behaviors we can see or hear. It invites behaviors which can be measured. It also invites behaviors that have the 5 critical attributes of active participation. The prompts the teacher uses to invite active participation tell students how to participate. Study the following prompts. Which ones do not invite overt active participation? Did you say that think about is not overt? You are correct. Although a student may look as though he or she is thinking, there is no way to measure what is going on inside the brain, or even whether it's working at all. Did you also say that visualize is not overt? If so, you are also correct. You have no direct evidence of whether or not a student is visualizing, or of what the student is visualizing, for that matter. The most sophisticated of all is combination active participation. Combination participation uses covert active participation first to prepare students for overt active participation. It invites behaviors that cannot be seen or heard to occur in conjunction with behaviors that can be seen or heard. It also invites behaviors that have all 5 of the critical attributes of active participation.